I'm so excited. This is the first. Is this the first one Renee said?
Yes.
This is great, and I get to kick it off.
Yay.
Oh, it's so exciting. So as she said, I am Randy Kesey. I am the Vice President of Development with Peninsula Agency on Aging. So I always ask the groups the same question because I want to see if you're awake, if you're ready for this presentation. How many of you in this room are currently aging?
They tell me. I am.
Okay, so hold on. These people right here did not raise their hand. Do you know what that means?
We didn't want to.
No, it's exciting to be aging. I always ask that because I want people to understand that we are all aging, whether we want to or not, right? Whether we want to or not.
But I was 30 yesterday.
And somehow you woke up later, right? And as I say, we are aging every second. And so Renee has told me I have 3 hours to talk. So by the end of 3 hours, we have aged 3 hours. This is going to be great. So if anybody falls out, I understand. We've stopped aging at that point, right? So with aging, how many of you know the alarming statistics that are about to face our population? Does anybody know these alarming statistics for the aging population? By 2030, which is what? 7 years, thank you. Well, I have a mathematician, this is great. She's going to help me. In 7 years, the senior population, 60 plus, is going to more than double what it is right now.
Wow.
By 2050, which is how many years? 2050. I'm going to believe you because I don't do math. 27 years, seniors are going to outnumber children 5 to 1. 5 to 1. So the statistics of older adults in the peninsula, in the United States, across the world, is going to be the highest population we have ever seen. So right now we have a 5-generation span. We have what is considered the greatest generation, the silent generation, Generation X, millennials, Generation Z, and we have the alpha generation right now. I know, and she's like, alpha? Those are those little young ones. Alpha generation. So what happens is now these baby boomers who were considered the largest population, they're 60 plus. Now you're going to start shifting Gen Xers, and you're going to start shifting millennials up into that. So when we talk about aging, it is important for the service and the work that we do because it affects everybody. And that's why I ask who in this room is aging, because it is going to affect you now, and it's going to affect you in 7 years, and it's going to affect you, we're going to believe her, 27 years, right? So how many of you have heard of Peninsula Agency on Aging? All right. How many can name 3 services that we do? Meals on Wheels. Respite care. Personal grooming. Anything else? Transportation. All right, well, that's my presentation. You guys did good. I'm just teasing. So Peninsula Agency on Aging. We are the local nonprofit that serves the peninsula, older adults, 60 plus, with services and programs to keep older adults living in their home for as long as possible. And we consider, although I don't, by the term of senior or older adult, is 60 plus. Now, I don't know about you if you've met any 60-year-olds, but I don't look at them and think that they're seniors per se, but our services and programs are for those who are 60 plus. Now, we've been on the peninsula serving, we are getting ready to reach 50 years. So October 1st of this year is our 50th anniversary. So I'm so excited, but it also sometimes saddens me when I hear people who have never heard of PAA, because of the services that we do provide are incredibly crucial to helping families. There are oftentimes when I run across families that will say, oh, I wish I knew that you guys did this because I really needed the help from my mom. Or, I am so stressed out as a caregiver. If there was only something that you guys could help with. But we can. That's the thing. And so if there's one thing that you can take from this today, is that even if it's a service or a program that you don't need and you think you will never need, I guarantee you that you're going to know people, your neighbors, church members, friends, family, that will need this service. So as the nonprofit, we are considered an area agency on aging. It is a mouthful. Agency on Aging. There are 25 of us across the state of Virginia. There are 620 across the United States. And you're probably thinking, oh, okay, well, why is that so important? I'm going to tell you a story. So my aunt is 64, and she has lupus. She has been diagnosed with lupus for probably a good 40 years of her life. Now, does anybody know anything about lupus? So it comes and goes. You can be perfectly fine for a good 15, 20 years. You're taking your medication. Everything is good. But then you can have those instances where flare-ups occur and you're incredibly sick, the water weight that you gain, and it just becomes this really terrible disease at that point in time. So this happened to my aunt. This was about 4 years ago. This was pre-COVID. And so she had a terrible, terrible lupus flare-up, as we call it. And she is low income. She lives paycheck to paycheck. She takes care of her disabled son. And she was finding it difficult to be able to go to work, to continue working, because with lupus and whatnot, it makes it difficult to stand on your feet. And having a labor-intensive job, she couldn't go to work. So she couldn't go to work, so what happened? She couldn't pay her bills. She couldn't buy food. She couldn't get her medication that she needed. She could not afford to go to the doctor. And so in that year time frame, she called the emergency room 17 times. Or I should say she called 911 to go to the emergency room 17 times in a year. Do you guys know anybody who does that? No, because you're thinking, why would anybody in their right mind call 911 that many times? Because at the emergency room, she's what? She's given medication, she's given food, and she gets to see a doctor. So finally, my mom and I would have this conversation, and it went on, and I was like, well, do you think that she's gonna make it to Thanksgiving? And my mom was like, I don't think so. She'd make it to Thanksgiving. And I'd be like, and I live here, by the way, and I didn't say this, my family lives in Iowa. So I would be on the phone, and I talked to my mother every day, at least 5 times a day. So it would be, I know, we're funny, and then we have nothing to talk about for those every 5 times, but we still talk. But anyway, so I would say, okay, well, she's made it to Thanksgiving. How are things going? How are things looking? She's like, I don't know. Maybe Christmas. We'd be lucky if she's going to make it to Christmas. She'd make it to Christmas. It just went on and on. And so my mom finally stepped in to be like, all right, I'm going to go over there every morning before I go to work. I'm going to stop there every day after I get off of work. I'm going to make her dinner. I'm going to go on weekends. That caregiving. Has anybody been a caregiver? It's that constant shift of your life to make sure that you're taking care of somebody else. And this person did not live with her. She lived across the other side of town. So I could see after about 6 months of my mom doing this, that my mom was starting to be incredibly stressed out and angry and resentful and just not understanding why her sister couldn't take care of herself or get her stuff together, get her life back together. And being frustrated, it was just this big nightmare. So finally, after about 6 months, I was like, Mom, that's enough. I said, I can't keep listening to this on the phone. Either I'm gonna fly home and come take care of it myself, or you stop everything you're doing and let me come in from here. And she's like, well, you can't do anything from there. I was like, watch me.
I know that's right.
Watch me.
Yes.
I picked up the phone, and because I know this, I picked up the phone and I called the local area agency on aging in my hometown, back in Iowa. And I talked to the resource coordinator, and I said, this is the situation. This is her name, her phone number, her social security number, whatever they needed, I provided it to her. The next day, she called my aunt. She went over and visited her. She became her caseworker. She helped her fill out her disability paperwork. She helped her get what they call as visiting nurses to help with her medication. She got doctors to come. It was just this whole thing. They stepped in, the area agency stepped in to provide all this and to help set her up with all these services. So my mom was able then to step back and just do that loving sister. And then you could see where then my mom got back to her normal self. So I tell you this because you don't have to live here and use the services. I called Iowa and said, my aunt lives in your town, go help take care of her. And we get that all the time. So that's why it's important for me to tell you that, because I know that we all have family all over, right? We're not all fortunate to be like in one little square block with everybody. So with that in mind, we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about some of the services that we do. And I'm gonna apologize because I always forget I have a PowerPoint. I'm fantastic at this. I forget I always have a PowerPoint. But some of our service areas, so when we consider the peninsula, we cover Newport News, Hampton, James City County, Williamsburg, York County, and who did I leave out? Poquoson, thank you. That was really good. I was like, I left out somebody. So we cover that whole entire area. Now, some of the programs and services, I am not going to touch on all of those because there is no way for me. I don't even know how to stop this thing now.
Go back.
Okay, it should stop. I don't know why it keeps going. But so I'm not going to talk about all those services and programs that we do. What I always tell people is that if there's something that you need or you have a question, just call us. So what we're going to talk about is, first up, home delivered meals and our senior dining club. So, home delivered meals, also known as Meals on Wheels. This is a service that is provided to those that are 60 and older who are considered homebound, functionally homebound. Does anybody know what that means?
They're totally dependent on getting these kind of resources.
Yeah, close enough, yeah. So functionally homebound means it's somebody who is stuck in their home, essentially. I don't like to use the negative language, but they're stuck in their homes. They can't prepare food for themselves, and they have nobody who is there to help them with that. Like, they have no access to get in a car, like you all have access to drive, to get in a car and to drive to a grocery store, come home, make themselves food. So this is 60 and older, functionally homebound. They have to be able to answer the door because we don't leave the meals outside for health reasons. And so they have to be able to answer the door. We do have dietary. If somebody has a dietary restriction, we make our meals that way as well. And if I told you all, if you could guess how much it costs for somebody to have a meal delivered to them every day, what would you say? Zero. You must be a volunteer or something.
No, I'm just getting old.
Oh, that was just wishful thinking that it was zero? Is that what it was? So the home delivered meals program, it costs nothing to the client. It costs zero. Our funding is provided by underneath the federal umbrella. So we get about $1.9 million a year for meals. Now each meal costs us roughly about $6 per person. Last year, you'll see on a later slide that we were able to serve about 182,000 meals last year. That is from volunteers delivering all of those meals. Now, when COVID hit us, 2019, right? No, 2020. I have to remember, right? 2020. I think all the COVID, all those years kind of just blend together and we all forget what they were. But in 2020, when COVID hit, our Meals on Wheels delivery program boosted up. We were delivering anywhere from 600 meals currently. At that point in time, we were delivering over 1,000 a day. Because we got an increase of funds and more seniors were becoming homebound because they did not want to go out, which I do not blame them. They wanted to stay home. But one of the crucial pieces of the home delivered meals program, the Meals on Wheels, is addressing social isolation. Social isolation is considered the #2 cause of death for seniors in the community because social isolation leads to depression, mental, physical, psychological decline, cognitive decline. Oftentimes, if you're socially isolated, you stop taking care of yourself, you stop taking your medication, you stop going to the doctor, and it just becomes this really vicious cycle. And so what the Home Delivered Meals program does is those volunteers are going every single day and knocking on that door to Miss Jones, Mr. Jones, and saying, home delivered meals, Meals on Wheels, and they're checking on Miss Jones. So what happens is if Miss Jones isn't feeling well or hasn't answered her door for days and has not called us to say, hey, I'm not going to be home, I'm going to be at my daughter's house for the week, we will then go do a well check. And that is so important because that helps reduce the isolation, but it's also checking on the seniors in our community to make sure that they're safe. Because the last thing we want is for somebody to be in their home for days. Yeah.
Did the deliveries fall off during COVID? In other words, were some of the
Increased.
That's amazing.
Increased. So we were delivering anywhere, and I'll say anywhere from an average of 400 to 600 depending on the day. Pre-COVID, during COVID, up to 1,000. So and I'll tell you why in a second, but those numbers increased. So it was 1,000. Now we've gone back a little bit shyer because people have gone back out in the community. So the Home Delivered Meals program is incredibly important to the isolation. It provides that nutritious meal. Oftentimes that meal, it may not look like a lot, but as older adults, their metabolism slows down and they're not eating all of it. So they get a lunch and a dinner because they'll save it for later. Newport News, Lower East End is considered a food desert. They are the only ones who get a Saturday delivery. Everybody else is Monday through Friday. And we use about 1,000, I think it was 882 volunteers last year to deliver all these meals. So volunteering is just as important. Yeah.
So it's not income-based, based
Nope,
on the person?
has nothing to do with income.
Okay.
Nope, zero to do with income. It literally is 60 and older, functionally homebound, and don't have transportation and can't prepare food for yourself. Yep. So we have clients, I met a woman, she's 64, and you're thinking 64, why would she be on Meals on Wheels? She is fully capable of taking care of herself, fully functionable, but she has severe arthritis, which keeps her homebound. She can't drive, she can't go out, she can't do things, and she definitely cannot prepare food for herself. So there's no age discrimination, there's no ability, nothing. It's strictly that. So with the flip side of the home delivered meals, these are for homebound seniors. We have, and we just now reopened our senior dining sites. So we have senior dining sites around the communities. We have 6 of them. And they provide meals to older adults and activities. They address social isolation, putting people, so basically if you put all of you in one room for a meal, and then you get to play games, bingo, bridge, plant flowers, yoga, you name it, whatever the center is doing at the time. So that's you go to the site. And that is no restriction again, 60 older, you just call and say, hey, I want to come to the dining site. But what happened, and this is why our numbers went up, is that for COVID, we immediately shut down our dining sites. We had to. So what we did is we then turned all of those meals that we were serving to those in the dining sites, and we took them to their home for them. So it could be husband and wife, it didn't matter. They still got meals every single day. But those are located, and it's in your brochure, those are located throughout the community. Some are Monday through Friday, and some are a couple days a week. It just kind of depends on where you go and what you're doing there. But I will tell you, a dining site, I met a woman when I first started working for the organization, and she had been married 59 years. So let me ask, who's married here? Now I'm going to go with the older couples. How many years? Oh, he's counting.
I know. Maybe 40 July.
40. Fantastic. How long have you been married? Oh, you just lost you're a perfect example. How long were you married?
Almost 20 years.
20 years. Okay. And you said you guys were married? 53.
I was married at 63.
63. So that's perfect. So imagine you, who just lost your husband, married for 63 years. It was a woman I had met. She had been married 59 years. She had only lived here a couple of years. She had been going to the dining sites with her husband, but he had passed away. The only way that she was able to go through the process of the grief of her husband was because of the friends that she made at the dining site. She was new here. She had no family, no friends, no nothing. I don't remember why they moved here. Maybe, or her husband wanted to retire here. You know, those odd things people want to come to Virginia to retire. But yeah, so she had met friends through the dining club, and they were the ones who helped her through that process. So it's a twofold for those dining sites. And again, cost nothing, eligible 60 plus, no restrictions. Any questions on meals? Yeah.
I can just go hang out.
Yeah. We just ask that if you're going to go to them, just give us a call so we can make sure that we have a meal for you. Yeah, because we order them for every site.
So you're serving functionally homebound Meals on Wheels, but who qualifies for the dining site?
60 and older?
So they may drive,
Yeah.
not homebound.
We actually will drive you to it. I'm going to get to transportation. Transportation, we have transportation services that will take people that need rides to the dining sites. Yep. So, but really it is, like you guys all, I don't know if you all drove here tonight, you literally could just get in your car and drive to the dining site and sit there and hang out with some friends for 3, 4, 5 hours and then go home for the day. They're wonderful. I love going to them. They're wonderful. So on the transportation side of things, so the transportation side is also an important piece. Everybody here drove, correct? Imagine if I took your car keys away. How would that make you feel? Right? It would be devastating, right? I have to tell you, my husband broke his foot last year in the middle of us moving, which was exciting enough. And it was his driving foot that he broke. He lost his sense of independence for 2 months. It was 8 weeks. I had to drive that man everywhere. It gives a whole new meaning to loving through better, through worse, you know, through sickness and in health. He likes to tell me that too, that I'm crazy, and I'm like, that's that whole like through health and sickness and, you know, better, worse. You said it. And it brought a new meaning to caregiving for me. I mean, I'm 44, so this was last year, and I didn't expect that I would be in this caregiving role, and it actually opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Now, yes, I do not compare it to having to take care of an older adult and that type of situation, but I had to drive this man to work every morning and pick him up every day and then help him up the stairs, help him in the bath. I was like, you need to figure out how to walk. And I remember, and the doctor never put him in a boot. And I remember the day that we went for his like 8-week checkup, and the doctor said, all right, I think you're ready. I think we're ready. We can take this cast off and you can start walking. I was like, he's walking out of here. And my husband, I remember, was like, I don't know. Like mentally, he couldn't get himself there to put his weight on his foot. And I was like, I will sit here all day in this office. You will walk out this door because I am not driving anywhere. But with that sense of independence, that's the thing, is that he lost that, and it drove him crazy, and it drove me crazy. And so older adults, when they start to lose their license or they stop driving for other reasons, family members may take the keys away. You know, there are safety reasons and whatnot. It's not out of meanness, I will tell you that right now. We don't take our parents' keys just because we're mean. But with that loss of driving, older adults stop doing 3 things. Can someone name any of those 3 things they stop doing?
Shopping.
Shopping, that's one. Socializing. Doctor's appointments. Ah, you guys are great. I love this.
Because we're old and
So she said doctor's appointments. She said shopping, and she said social activities. So when older adults stop driving, it is a known thing that they stop going to doctor's appointments, they stop going to social outings, and they stop going to the grocery store. So I've already talked about the food, the nutrition that we're able to help with. Now the doctor's appointments. Why is it so important for us to continue going to doctor's appointments? To remain healthy. What about medication? Yeah, right? Physical checkups. If we're on kidney dialysis, how are we going to get there? That's incredibly important. Physical therapy, if we've fallen and we have to go to physical therapy, how are we going to get there? Chemo, absolutely. So the transportation service that we provide, it takes you to all non-emergency medical appointments. All of them. I always tell people we're not 911, don't call us, but we'll take you to everything else. So if you have a loved one that needs to get to a doctor's appointment, and let's say, for instance, let's say this couple. We're going to put, yeah, see, look. No, we're going to say you. What's your name? Joseph. Joseph has fallen, and he is your driver. Right. But he is your driver, and he drives you everywhere, right? So we're going with the story. So Joseph has fallen, and he's broken his hip, and he no longer can drive. And what's your name? Francine. And Francine's like, well, how do you think I'm taking you to the doctor? Because I can't drive. I don't have my license, or I've lost my license, or I'm driver impaired for some reason. How are we going to get Joseph to go to his appointments?
Use a cane.
Call PAA. And guess what, Francine and Joseph? We can take both of you together. Or we can just take him, and then you can be like, I'm going to take a break.
But you chose us, but that is a true story. I haven't driven the last 7 years, and he has driven.
I knew that. I knew that. That's why. They're my neighbors. So I'm just kidding. I see her yelling at him every morning.
I think one of those places where the transportation is provided is up near Harris Teeter and so forth on Route 5, the shopping center up there. I think I see the vehicles out there.
Jefferson Common, Williamsburg.
So I'll tell you, we drive everywhere. So I'm trying to so we will drive everywhere on the peninsula. So since that's our coverage area, if you live in Newport News and your doctor's appointment's in Poquoson, we'll pick you up and we'll take you to Poquoson. York County, it doesn't matter as long as you're within our jurisdiction of the areas that we serve. All you have to do is, Francine, you give us a call 7 days in advance to say, Joseph has an appointment next week. Can you please come pick him up and take me so we can go to his doctor's appointment? And guess what? We will show up at your front door, and we're going to pick you up and him. And if he's in a wheelchair or he uses a rollator or whatever the situation may be, our vehicles are equipped for that just as well. And so we'll take you to the appointment, we'll drop you off, and we'll come back and pick you up.
Just have a question. Can you clarify what it means when it says those who are not eligible for Medicaid transportation?
Yep, so I'll get to that. So no, you're fine. No, that's a great lead-in. So with the transportation, the eligibility, 60 and older, we keep repeating that, right? 60 and older, don't have access to transportation. So what I always tell people is that we don't want to pull up to your house, Francine, and you getting out of your Mustang in the driveway and hop in our vehicle to take you and Joseph on a date to the doctor. All right, that's all it is.
What if he was at work and she had a doctor's appointment?
We'd come pick her up.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't go, I wouldn't pick them all up at random spots. It'd have to be like we collectively pick them up, take them, bring them back. So can't have access to your own transportation, and then not Medicaid eligible. So if you're Medicaid eligible, we help you fill out that paperwork because Medicaid has their own transportation services covered under your insurance. So because that's a free service by Medicaid, that's all it is. Yeah?
Is there a relationship between PAA
So we are community partners. We're community partners, and we do a lot of referrals back and forth between each other. So if there's something we can't help with, we'll send them over there and vice versa. Yeah, we do a lot of I like to say cross-pollination with partners. But the transportation, yep, go ahead.
What if it's like out of the immediate area? Like what if there's a ride to Richmond necessary? And, you know.
We will, so there, I hesitate. So if there's an extreme situation where we will potentially work with another area agency on aging to pick you up at the border and continue to take you on. I have heard of them doing it before. I don't think it's a very common thing, but I have heard of them doing it before because, like, let's say somebody lives in Gloucester or their appointment's in Gloucester, we'll meet somebody over there and, you know, swap them, essentially, right? Because what it is, and I'll get to your question. So what it is because our funding is restricted and there's restrictive language. And if anybody knows anything about federal government, is you have to be very careful about every single penny you spend and how you spend it, and you have to have proof for everything you spend. And so because the guidelines only say it's our service area, we can't cross. It's so bizarre, but I'm in marketing. I like to spend money, so I don't pay attention to what federal government says. Yeah, you had a question?
I'm very curious about this transportation. I don't meet the age qualifications, but I meet all the other qualifications.
Yep. So we also serve people with disabilities, and that's by case. And a lot of times what we'll do is in that situation is we'll partner you with an agency who actually does serve under 60 to be able to provide that. Yep. And I always tell people just call.
No, I'm always relying on the church friends.
Absolutely. Just call. Yeah.
This would be great.
Yeah. Because there's Insight Enterprises who serves this area just as well, and they are community partners that we cross-pollinate with. She liked that phrase. And we work with them. We work with other agencies just as well. So it's just a matter of trying to find what works best.
And you guys will do the footwork?
Uh-huh. Yep.
We'll expect a phone call.
Not me, but you can always call and say hi to me even if you do call. Somehow people get to me and they're like, yeah, I'm calling because I need help. And I was like, I'll transfer you to the right person. And that leads us to the next part, which is the most crucial part. But so in addition to transportation, what I was going to ask you all is, what do you think transportation costs you to ride on this beautiful van around town? Zero. And I don't know if this is being recorded, but my my boss, always hates when I use the word free or zero. We always say it's donation-based. It's all donation-based. Because as a nonprofit, of course, we're always trying to make sure we raise funds and continue that service. But yes, so the transportation, we just ask 7 days in advance, and we will take you everywhere and anywhere that your heart desires. It's like a, steward. I'm on a plane. But so a new program I wanted to tell you all about is the veterans transportation. Are any of you veterans or no veterans? Okay, so this is a great new grant program that we have. We're in our full 1 year already. And this is eligible to anybody who is a veteran. This is the only program that crosses borders. This allows us to go anywhere, this grant, if you're a veteran, and then we can take you to your doctor's appointments. So as a veteran, you would qualify under this amazing program. So are you a veteran?
Yes.
See? Well, that just answered your question about going to Richmond, right? And of course, there are, like, it's in the blue brochure that you have, it says we work with the VA medical services for that. So,
I've seen this.
Yeah.
I've seen that in action. My sister's husband has a Parkinson's-like disease, so he is in a wheelchair, and she has to do everything for him. So now that she knows about this, she's been using the veterans transportation. She gets on the van with him when he goes to the VA.
Oh, good.
And she can just look out the window and not do a thing. And she needs that.
I'm wondering if she's tapped into the Veterans Directed Care Program.
I don't know, but I'll be taking some notes, so go ahead.
I got the next one for you. I got the next one. So is there any questions on the transportation side? Yeah.
if you're like how Art is a veteran, but Carol, are you? No. So if Art's not with Carol, could she cross the border through that program, or does he have to be with her?
Well, if we're taking him to his doctor's appointment,
Oh.
so we're taking him on the veterans transportation, we can take him. There's no restriction
Gotcha.
on jurisdictions. There's no restrictions. Now, if we're taking Carol and she's like, I love my eye doctor in Richmond. Can you all take me there with PAA transportation? And it would be a no. That makes sense? Yeah. So the veteran side is because the veterans, I mean, you all deserve it. You deserve having that peace of mind, being able to get the services freely and easily as possible. So we always make sure, not that seniors don't qualify, but it's.
I work a lot with the Natasha House.
Yeah.
Which is a home for
Yep,
homeless
yep.
and children. But we've also taken in some senior citizens, let me explain.
Wow.
Grandmothers that lost their job Fort Monroe when it shut down, and they were raising
Their grandbabies.
their grandchildren. We actually took them in. What kind of services could you render to a situation like
We
that?
can help the older adult.
Yeah.
Of course, not the grandchildren. That's the tough part. Are they still at the Natasha House, or are they in their own?
No.
They're now in a house of their own.
Graduated out of the program.
And is she working, or is she?
Yes, the house does have access to a lot of agencies, and therefore she has graduated out. We have been able to help her find a job, and this was several years ago, but nonetheless, it was very helpful to her, and I don't know that we've had one of that age again, but it really did help her, and it really got her to where she needed to be.
Good.
But we needed more service.
And that almost would be one of those case-by-case basis, where we could provide some services and some might be a little iffy. But see, that'll lead me to this next one. I don't know why it's not going to the next one. I'll let him push it. I'm pushing the arrow, it's not going. Maybe it froze on me. Yeah, you see, I talk too much, it might have frozen on me. Oh, see, there we go. So this leads me to the care services. So this is like I'll say like the mothership of everything. So when I called to Iowa to get help from my aunt, I called into what we call a resource coordinator. This is I need help, what do you need help with? That's what the resource coordinator is there for. And so when I'm talking to her and saying, I need this, or this is my situation, these are all the things I need help with, what can you do, or what can you provide, or what do I need to do next? The resource coordinator is the person that says, all right, let's put this into a case, and we'll send out a social worker to do an evaluation of what is needed. Or it could just be, oh, let me send you a phone number of someone to call, or here's some resources in the community, or here's Insight Enterprises phone number, or so that resource coordinator is the pathway to everything. So case-by-case basis would be, I have this, this situation, what can you all do, or what can we put in place? So that person is incredibly crucial. She's been with us 28 years. She's trying to retire. We're trying not to. She's phenomenal. Vivian Clayton. She's phenomenal. And it's one of those things where you so at PAA, we don't have a lot of turnover. On let's say the leadership team, I am the one who's been there the least amount of time at 9 years. We don't have a lot of turnover. It's, everyone stays because it's mission focused and we love what we do. And so it's really hard when somebody wants to leave 28 years. How do you let them go? And how do you fill the shoes? That's the next thing. But so with the care services, I always say this gets way into the weeds, so I try to stay very high level on the care. It really is. Do you need help with your husband and he needs meals or he needs transportation? Let's put something together. Now, what if somebody needs personal care, in-home personal care? We help with that. So our funding allows us to be able to go into a home. Through COVID, it was higher hours. Right now, we're getting ready to shift those back down. But anywhere at that time, it was 3 to 10 hours a week of personal care. And personal care for a caregiver is just as important. So for those caregivers, it allows them that respite. And they desperately need that respite. So we're able to bring in that care. Now, this is where we work with all of our community partners. This is where we work with Faith in Action. This is where we work with any of the home health care agencies, the hospice agencies. You name it, we work with them. And the idea is that who can provide what we need for this person in particular? And so we always play with everybody. We're always referring out. People are always referring in. We work with the Department of Social Services. Everybody we can get involved, because we want to make sure then again that our older adults are living independent and healthy and on their own. Other things for care services, and again, it gets into the weeds, but housekeeping, medication management, emergency services. If you know somebody, and I always tell churches this because it's just as important, is energy assistance. We're getting ready to go into the AC season. I think. I keep turning my heat on, turning it off, turning my AC on. I don't know what's happening with the weather. But let's just pretend we're getting ready to go into summer, AC season, right? And the bill from Dominion Power, is that who we have? Is crazy expensive, right? Through the winter, the heat, crazy expensive. And so we have older adults who are trying to figure out, how am I going to pay my rent, my mortgage, buy my food, pay for medication, which is a whole other subject of cost. How am I going to do all that, plus pay all my utilities? And I'm living on Social Security income of $700, $800, $900, because a lot of them are. And so we get phone calls of emergency services. I just got a bill and it says that my water's going to get shut off and I'm not going to have any running water. What do I do? So they call us. We help them. We work with churches. Churches call us to help them work with. It's just a whole, everybody works together. So I always tell that because a lot of times church members feel a lot more comfortable going to the leaders within their church. So being at a church, I always make sure if you have people who need that help, just reach out to us. So we do it 3 times a year. $100 max on each time. If the bill, there was one case, her bill was like $790. And again, it's expensive. So I can't even say that she didn't pay her bill for months and months and months. That could have been just 2 months of having heat on. And so we called United Way. They chipped in money. We called a church that she went to. They chipped in money. We chipped in money. And it was all basically, we stroked the check and paid it up and got her caught up.
Wow. Do you work with the bargain box in York County?
No.
Well, you should. I'm surprised.
No.
Because they are very generous and they are very helpful based on the cause.
Oh, that's a good idea. Bargain box.
Yes.
Are they new? They're new, aren't they?
No.
They're not?
Around 50 years.
Obviously, I don't know.
They are a thrift store, but they have all volunteers, and every bit of their money goes out to help people in the community.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look into that. I appreciate that. Bargain box. And I love a good thrift store.
Yes.
Is it a good thrift store?
Yes.
I love a good thrift store.
Not everything there or DAV.
Yeah. If you find a good thrift store, I'm telling you, they're rare, but I love them. But yeah, so for the care services, we do caregiver lunch and learns. We do memory cafes. There's so many things under the care services that we're able to help. But one of the big pieces is that caregiving piece. Because as I told you with those numbers for older adults, how large they're going to get, caregiving is going to be just as important and big to that pie. Because those older adults are going to need help, right? So we're all going to be, whether we have been, will be, Rosalind Carter says it best, you either have been, will be, might be thinking about being, she like listed everybody. I don't know the exact quote, but we're all gonna be in that caregiving role. Mine was last year, so I'm gonna take a couple months off, a couple years off. So on the care side, so this is the only one I will tell you that does have a fee. But the fee is based on a sliding scale. It's based on income. 9 times out of 10, and I can tell you all through COVID, nobody paid a dime for care services. I do have one gentleman that pays like $72 a month for his care that he receives. So it's just, it really is, it's all over the map. So I never tell people, because they always say, well, how much is it gonna cost? It's really based on everything. So many different factors. But this is the one that when you call and say, I need help, it feeds through. And again, I don't know why this clicker doesn't like me. He's doing a great job. He's just gonna click through for me. So on the next one, information and resources. This is just as important. We do so many things in the community. We do outreach presentations like this to make sure people are hearing from us. We have a newsletter that we send out monthly, and it gives out all of the different events, the programs, and it went ahead. But it gives us programs, events, different workshops, different topics, whatever it may be. So if you are computer savvy, email savvy, sign up for the newsletter. And that actually personally comes from me. So now you'll have a face with it. And then our resource coordinator, our website, social media, if you're on social media. We do an annual forum at the convention center every year. It's just going to keep going because I think it's on an automatic fun transition thing. But so we do a forum over at the convention center. It's about 1,000 attendees. It's a half day of workshops. We bring in a keynote speaker. It's a really great event. It's $5 for people to come. Lunch and learn program for caregivers. We do that. We have health and wellness classes. It's so much. I can't even like spit it all out to you what we do. All I just say is that if you are facing caregiving roles, if you're facing issues yourself that you need help with, just reach out to us. That's the simplest thing. Oftentimes people are very prideful and don't want to ask for the help. But if it's there, and if it's from something just as sweet as me, because that's where it comes from, the mission itself is just as sweet. And we have this conversation that a lot of times people are very hesitant because they think it's an agency, like a government agency, and I'm not going to ask for help. But that's what we're there for. We want to help as much as we can. So we can go on to the next one. Look, now see, he paused it for me. So now he's got to figure out how to go to the next one. But this last one is basically our impact. This is what we served this is our fiscal year. So when I said 182,000 meals, we used 800 volunteers to do that. We made safety check-in calls. That number actually is down. Through COVID, we made about 17,000 safety check-in calls. We didn't lose a single staff member through COVID. What we did is we shifted our workforce. So we had all of our part-time become safety check-in call people. And they would call clients and seniors, and Department of Social Services would give us people to call. We would call them and check in on them. Do you need anything? Do you need food? Do you need supplies? Do you need whatever? Do you just need somebody to talk to? If they needed supplies, our drivers, we kept them employed. They would go pick up product. They would go deliver it during COVID. So for 3 years, this is what we did. And we still try to continue that same mode, but the numbers, of course, have gone down because we're back in person and people are more active. So safety check-in calls, in-home personal care, and whatnot. So I think and we served, of course, that's the big number. I don't even know why I didn't see that number. The big number of how many seniors we served specifically was 10,000. I've seen that number in 9 years fluctuate anywhere from and again, it's based on funding, 7,000 up to 18,000. So it just really kind of depends and how much the government wants to love us and give us money. Which if anybody knows that, that's always a fun struggle. But so on the next slide, what's the next one? My contact information. I didn't know it was on the next one. So I always tell people if you have questions, never hesitate even just to reach out to ask me something simple, something easy. I do have my business cards if anybody really wants one, so you don't have to write it down. But I always just say, just stay in touch, just ask questions, get involved, volunteer if you're interested in volunteering. We're always looking for that. Come to a program, check it out. So, yeah, questions?
I've known several people with a similar last name. Do you have
I get that.
from this area?
No, actually, so it kind of ironic. That's my maiden name.
Okay.
When I got married about, so I'm remarried, and I got married, don't tell my husband, Francine or Joseph. 2017, so what's the math? 6 years? I'm terrible. So when I got remarried, I had actually told my husband, I said, I'm going back to my maiden name. And he was like, oh, okay, sounds good. And everybody got so confused. But that's my maiden name, that's my family name. So I get that a lot, though. That's not a very common last name. And that, you what?
As neighbors, we didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Because you knew me by my married name, that's why. He was saying since we were neighbors. But any questions? I know that's a lot. I tried to give a great overview. Yeah?
Yeah, you talked about the meals and y'all present them, take them out. Do y'all do the preparing, all the cooking?
No, so we have a company that cooks for us, and packages it for us. And then our volunteers they put them in the styrofoam boxes. And then our volunteers go to the different sites that we have set up for them to go pick them up. They have the instruction sheets on them, and then you take them, and like for those who are interested in volunteering for that really is, it's your own investment of time. We have volunteers who do it every day, once a month, once a quarter, and it's typically from 11 to 1. So you pick the meals up about 10:45, 11 o'clock, and then 11:30 is usually when delivery starts. I know that because people will call at 11:30 and go, where's my meal? And I'm like, ma'am, it's 11:31. I'm so sorry. Let me find them. But that's the thing with the social isolation piece, is that they're waiting for this volunteer. That is the person who's coming to talk to them for the day. And the volunteers really do create those relationships where if Miss Jones does answer the door, but she's looking kind of, sick, pale, not acting herself, our volunteers who are regulars see that. And they'll actually, she didn't look very good, can someone call her? So that's very important for us.
Do any of your clients ever ask for more than one meal?
Of course. Of course they do. No. Am I being recorded? I do know some volunteers that will, let's say if it's the last person and they have 2 meals left in there, otherwise they just come back to our office, the meals do, and they go to waste. So, right. But there are, Newport News, East End, the one that's a food desert, they do get extra meals. They get a shelf-stable bag, that type of stuff, so to be fed through the weekend.
I had a friend in Gloucester who delivered meals, and he said he sure got balled out a lot if he wasn't on time.
So my office, before I moved it to a different spot in the building, it used to sit next to the receptionist desk. My office sat outside their door, and then my office was in here. And I would hear 11:31, I could hear him go, I know, Nancy, it's on its way. I promise you, call me back if it's not there. And it would as soon as she hung up, the next person. Because again, this is their friend, and they're wondering where they're at. And a lot of times they get dolled up and they're ready to chat and see their friends. It's a lot. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. If I would have thought about it, I would have shared a video with you. It was a woman who volunteered. It was with her mom. And she had been volunteering for years, and she would go with her mom, who had started to develop dementia, and her mom still wanted to do it. So she would drive, and it gave her mom purpose. And she would read the directions over and over and over in the car. And of course, it's your mom, so you just let her. And you go along with it, and you're like, yes, I have it in GPS, but just keep going. And then when her mother passed away, it was really hard for her to carry that on. And so she had come with the forethought that she was going to put in her notice, even though she's a volunteer. She was going to put in her notice. And she went out that week and delivered her last week of routes. and she felt her mom with her during that whole like week, and she continued on. Yeah, I mean, her story is beautiful. I would say if we had time, I could pull it up on YouTube, but it's a beautiful story. And her mother, of course, had passed away, and she still volunteers with us. And it gives her purpose now, and it kind of brings her a little closer to her mom when she does it. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about respite care.
Yeah.
Do you guys handle that, manage it, or do you just refer out? If someone was to call your office and they're inquiring about respite care,
Yeah.
y'all would help with
Yep,
that?
so there's a couple of different options. Do they need respite care? Could be, we're gonna send you to an adult daycare to give the caregiver some respite. So we're gonna send you to an adult daycare center, which yes, is exactly as it sounds. It's like a child daycare center, but for adults. And it gives them the caregiver that respite. And there are a couple of them around the community. We do drive you to the daycare center and give that caregiver the rest. It could just be they need 3 hours of during the week, just some personal time away. Somebody will come in and bathe. And here's a situation where a daughter and father. And I know often for men, it's probably very difficult that if your daughter had to be your caregiver when it comes to bathing and that type of stuff. I mean, that's kind of it's difficult. And so we'll come in and we'll take that away and we will help with that. We'll help bathe, we'll help dress and get dad ready while daughter is off grocery shopping, taking care of her family, doing whatever. So again, it's different situations for everybody. What is it that they need? Do they just need some training? Do they just need some time away? We do have a memory cafe, but that allows, it's more of a social setting. So if you're a caregiver for your husband and she's just slight dementia, he's still, he can go out, but you're still caregiving for him. It allows you to go to a social setting with other people who are dealing with the same and just have conversation. But it gives the caregiver that kind of like break to just talk to other people. It's not a support group. It really is just a social setting of other people who are dealing with the same situation. So it just kind of depends on what it is that the person needs.
Do this program, would they help someone in a natural disaster situation? There's some people that y'all take meals around to, and a natural disaster just happens, whatever it may be. Do your programs reach out to those people that you know of to see if they are all right? Things of that nature.
Yep. So hurricanes, that's a prime example. There's a couple of communities, senior communities, that flood really bad when there's hurricanes. And so we've gone out. We've actually gone out to help move them out and off the bottom floor with other organizations, and then we bring them food to feed them there. During COVID, the World Kitchen Organization, which is it Pharrell? Does he run the World Kitchen, or he's friends with Pharrell Williams with the World Kitchen Organization? Their organization had reached out to us during COVID as to tell us who needs to be fed in the senior community, and we'll take care of it. So we do all those partnerships. The food bank, we partner with them on anything. So it's holidays, we still deliver meals on Christmas. We deliver meals on Thanksgiving. If we know of a natural disaster that's about to occur, we will jump ahead of it and send out like 3 meals. We'll get them frozen and then give them 3 meals to last through like 3 days. So it's always snow, you name it. Because we don't want to leave Miss Jones wondering, well, how am I supposed to take care of myself? What am I supposed to do? So we always, yeah.
Does this agency work with Food Lion? Because
Yes.
they are marvelous people.
Food Lion actually gives me a grant 3 times a year. So they give me $5,000 each grant.
They're going to be coming to our carnival
Yeah.
on Saturday and
Yeah.
handing out bags of groceries.
So what they do, Food Line, which is great, is they give me gift cards.
Yes.
And then our care coordinators, the ones who work with the families, they give out these gift cards to families, especially during natural disasters. we have them, and you can go and take them and get the food and stuff that you need. So like through COVID, it was perfect. We actually spent them for them and would bring them their deliveries and whatnot. So yeah, Food Lion's one of our good partners too, yep. As the grant writer, I'm the grant writer for our agency. Oh, trust me, I try to find anybody that's gonna give me money. I leave no stone unturned. Any other questions? I hope I didn't go on too long. I know it's 8:05, so right under the hour. It's a lot of information. There are at the back, I did put the other services brochures in case you were interested. The blue one is what I call the overview, general brochure. And then the other ones are a bit more specific. Oh, they got circulated. Oh, perfect. Yep. Perfect. You guys are on it. I love it. All right. Well, if that's nothing else, I'll answer some questions on the side note if you want.
Can I get your card?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you, Randy.
Absolutely. I'll put my cards back here.
Thank you so much.
I always tell people now, top that. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for helping. I don't know why it wasn't clicking through.
I don't know what it was, the whole thing would freeze.